let's talk about red cards. What if a foul in the 5th minute wasn't punished in exactly the same way as one in the 89th? Well, there's a new proposal out there that wants to change football's disciplinary system by adding one crucial factor: time. So let's break down how it would actually work. It really all boils down to this one question. Think about it. A red card in the 5th minute means your team has to play almost the entire match a man down. A red card in the 89th minute, the game is basically over. But right now, the punishment after the game is exactly the same. Let's see just how unbalanced that really is. So when you look at the numbers, the difference is just massive. One team is stuck with a man down for 85 minutes, while the other team is only disadvantaged for a single minute. And yet, despite that huge difference in what happens during the game, the next match ban is identical. This is the whole problem in a nutshell. The punishment doesn't really fit the impact of the crime. And that's the crucial point, isn't it? The system we have now only cares about what the foul was. It completely ignores when it happened. A team that guts it out with 10 players for almost a full 90 minutes gets hit with the same ban as a team that was down a man for 60 seconds. The price they already paid on the pitch just doesn't count. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, there's this really interesting proposal called the Time-Based Graduated Suspension System, or TBGSS for short. The whole goal here is to bring a new level of fairness to the game by, you guessed it, factoring time into the equation. The core idea is actually pretty simple, but it's also kind of powerful. It introduces this concept of an in-game debt. Basically, the more time a team has to play shorthanded in one match, the less severe the suspension is for the next one. It's all about making sure the total punishment actually fits the on-field consequences. So how would this thing work in practice? The whole system is built on 4 different tiers of suspension, and the punishment you get depends entirely on when that red card was shown. First up, we've got the half suspension. This is for a player who gets sent off any time in the first half. Their team has to survive at least 45 minutes with only 10 players, which is a huge disadvantage. The system recognizes that a significant in-game debt has been paid, so the punishment gets adjusted. So here's how that plays out in the next match. The suspended player is actually listed on the team sheet, but he's what they call a locked substitute. He's totally ineligible for the first half, but then at halftime, he becomes available, giving the manager a brand new tactical option for the second 45. Next is the quarter suspension. This tier is for players who get sent off in the second half with a straight red, or for anyone who gets a second yellow card. The in-game punishment here is obviously less than a first half red, so the next match suspension is different too. And this is where it gets really dramatic. The player is banned for the full 90 minutes of the next match. But if that match is a knockout game and it goes to extra time, their suspension is lifted. They suddenly become available. Imagine the possibilities. It's a huge tactical twist right when the stakes are at their absolute highest. Then we have the quota suspension. This is for players who get suspended after picking up too many yellow cards over a bunch of games. The key difference here is that their team never actually suffered by playing a man down. Because they've paid, zero in-game debt, the punishment is a little stricter than for a second half red. And finally, there's the full suspension. This one applies to a red card that happens super late in the game, say from the 85th minute onwards. In this case, the team suffered almost no disadvantage, so the system just keeps the traditional full match ban. No in-game debt was paid, so no leniency is given. Makes sense. Okay, so just to recap the 4 tiers real quick. A first half red means your player's available at halftime. A second half red or suspension from yellow cards makes them available for extra time. And a really late red card, that results in a full match ban. It's basically a sliding scale of punishment. Let's talk a bit more about where this system could have its biggest impact: knockout football. I mean, the extra layer of strategy this adds to extra time could be a total game changer for cup finals and big tournaments. And the system's logic even extends into extra time itself. A red card in the first period of extra time still puts your team at a disadvantage for 15 minutes or more, so that earns a quarter suspension. But a red card in the last few minutes of extra time, the game is over, so that's a full suspension. The principle stays consistent all the way through. All right, you might be thinking, this sounds kind of complicated. How would anyone keep track of this on the sideline? But the way to implement it is actually pretty simple and elegant. It's a mechanism called the locked substitute. The whole locked thing is a pretty easy 4-step process. The player is listed as an extra reserve, but their name shows up as locked on the digital team sheet.
Then, at the right time, halftime or extra time, their status just unlocks automatically. The important thing is, to bring them on, the manager still has to use one of their normal substitution slots. It keeps things tactically balanced.
Now, there is one absolutely crucial exception to all of this. This system is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's designed for footballing mistakes, like tactical fouls or a mistimed tackle. Any red card for violent conduct, spitting, racism, or assaulting an official is completely exempt and results in an immediate full suspension, no matter when it happened. On those offenses, there is zero tolerance. So let's pull back and just look at the big picture. What would a system like this really bring to the game? The people who propose it argue it's about more than just numbers and minutes. It's about the spirit of the sport. The argument for this system really comes down to three main benefits. First, it restores equity by making the punishment fit the actual impact on the game. Second, it heightens the drama, especially in knockout games. Can you imagine the tension? And finally, it encourages tactical bravery, giving managers a new dynamic weapon to think about. And all of this leads to one final question. With VAR, goal line technology, and tactics that are constantly evolving, modern football is more advanced than it has ever been. So isn't it time for its justice system to catch up too? That's the debate this whole proposal really opens up.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are taking on a really fascinating piece of research. It's aimed at revolutionizing one of the oldest, most emotionally charged rules in all of global sport.
The football suspension system.
Exactly.
The red card.
Something everyone has a strong opinion on.
For sure. So the source material we have is this paper. It's titled Time-Based Graduated Suspension System in Football. It's by Aydın Tiryaki, Mustafa Bostan, and, get this, Gemini 3 Pro.
The AI, yeah. That's a story in itself.
It is. And their core argument is that football's current system of justice is, well, mathematically broken.
Which is a bold claim.
A very bold claim. And to really get a sense of their argument, to appreciate the author's intent, we're going to do something a bit different today.
Before we break it all down, I'm going to read the opening thesis and the conclusion for the paper itself. We think it's important you hear it in their own voice, so to speak. So let's listen to the core of Aydın Tiryaki's argument. Restoring justice to the pitch. A proposal for a time-based graduated suspension system, TBGSS, in football. Football is a complex game governed by simple rules. However, one of its oldest tenets, the red card and subsequent match suspension, has failed to keep pace with the modern game's speed, mathematics, and demand for equity. Currently, a player sent off in the 5th minute receives the same standard suspension as one sent off in the 89th minute, despite the massive disparity in the cost paid by their respective teams during the match. This represents a fundamental flaw in sporting justice. Current disciplinary codes focus solely on the nature of the offense, ignoring the timing and the immediate punitive weight borne by the team. A team reduced to 10 men in the 5th minute suffers a disadvantage for 85 minutes. The ejected player pays a heavy price emotionally and tactically in real time. Conversely, a player sent off in the 89th minute, or suspended due to yellow card accumulation, pays almost no in-game price. Conclusion. The time-based graduated suspension system aligns the punishment with the actual damage inflicted on the team. 1. It restores equity by acknowledging the time served by the team on the pitch. 2. It heightens drama in cup finals, turning extra time into a strategic showcase. 3. It encourages tactical bravery from managers managing lock assets. Football has evolved in its tactics and technology. It is time for its justice system to catch up. Okay, so that's the thesis, that central idea that the system is mathematically broken. Let's start right there.
Yeah, that's the hook. And it all comes down to a single concept.
Which is?
Debt. In-game debt. The current system imposes a fixed future penalty, the match ban, but it completely ignores the immediate cost paid on the pitch.
That's a great way to put it. So a 5th minute red card means your team's just paid 85 minutes of tactical debt playing shorthanded.
Exactly. Whereas the player sent off in the 89th minute, their team pays, what, a minute? 2. The player who caused massive in-game damage gets the exact same future punishment.
It's completely inequitable when you frame it like that.
It is. And that phrase from the paper, zero in-game debt, for things like yellow card accumulation, that's what really captures the problem.
So the whole mission of this TBGSS, this time-based graduated suspension system, is to finally connect the future punishment to the debt that was already paid on the pitch.
That's the core goal. And what I find so compelling about the solution from Tiryaki and the team is that it's pragmatic. They don't try to track, the exact minute.
That would be a nightmare.
A total mess. Instead, they build the whole system around fixed manageable blocks, halves, extra time periods, and from that, they create 4 tiers of punishment.
Okay, so let's break those down. We have half suspension, quarter suspension, and then the good old full suspension.
Right.
Let's unpack the first one, the half suspension. This seems like the clearest example. It's for those early dismissals, right? A player gets a red card in, say, the 30th minute.
And their team is just crippled for the rest of the game, 60 minutes down a player. So under this system, that player serves a half suspension in the next match. They're banned for the first half of that next game, but they automatically become eligible to play right at the start of the second half, the 46th minute.
So the sanction directly mirrors the fact that their team already played a full half or more, a man down.
It's proportional justice. Clean, simple, and logical.
But it creates this fascinating new problem for a manager, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Your star defender is available at minute 46, but you have to survive the entire first half without them. You have to plan everything around their reentry.
It's not just a simple ban anymore. It becomes a really complex tactical challenge.
Okay, so let's move on to the next tier then. The quarter suspension. This one handles, red cards in the second half?
Second half reds, and maybe more importantly, second yellow cards. So a player gets a second yellow in the 60th minute.
Right.
Under the quarter suspension, they miss the full 90 minutes of the next match. But, and this is the key, they get a conditional redemption.
If the match goes to extra time?
If it goes to extra time, they become eligible to play.
This is where you can see Aydın Tiryaki is really thinking about high-stakes knockout football.
For sure. The paper explicitly says this is to eliminate the tragedy of star players missing major finals due to minor technical fouls.
We've all seen it. That soft second yellow that ruins a player's dream.
We have. But I do wonder about the real-world pressure this creates.
How so?
Well, the player gets this conditional eligibility, sure.
Yeah.
But imagine you're in that cup final. Your team has to survive 90 minutes without that key player, just on the hope that you can get them back for 30 minutes of extra time.
You're swapping a simple tragedy for 90 minutes of strategic torment.
Exactly. Is that better? Maybe.
Yeah.
But it's a huge psychological burden.
That's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of torment, let's look at the harshest non-violent tier, the quota suspension.
Right, and this one targets the yellow card accumulation problem.
The ultimate zero in-game debt offense. The player gets suspended, but their team never suffered on the pitch for it.
Correct. So this suspension is the most restrictive. The player is eligible only if the next match goes to extra time.
So in a normal league match where there's no extra time.
It's just a full one-game ban, business as usual. But in a cup tournament, it offers this tiny window of redemption, this last resort.
Which, again, adds this incredible layer to a manager's planning.
A huge one.
Okay, logically, this all hangs together. It makes sense. But my first thought is chaos. How do you implement this without referees and fourth officials going crazy trying to track who is eligible and when?
And that's where the technical solution comes in. I suspect this is where the AI co-author, Gemini 3 Pro, really earned its credit.
The locked substitute mechanism.
Exactly. It's designed to be digital and block-based, so no one is tracking minutes on a stopwatch.
Walk me through it. How does it work on match day?
Okay, so the suspended player is still on the squad list. They're just, say, the 24th person, an extra or conditional reserve.
Okay.
And on the digital team sheet, the one the referee has on their tablet, that player's name is just listed as locked.
Simple enough?
Very simple. And the unlocking isn't manual. It's tied to the natural breaks in the game. For a half suspension, the system automatically switches that player to unlocked at halftime.
And for the quarter or quota suspensions?
It unlocks automatically at the final whistle of regulation time, 90-plus minutes. It's just a binary switch, locked or unlocked. No gray area.
That does sound manageable. But it brings up the biggest tactical question for me. If my player gets unlocked, do I get a free extra sub to bring them on?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
That would totally break the game's tactical balance. Tiryaki and the authors are very clear on this. Unlocking the player does not grant an extra substitution slot.
So you have to use one of your normal subs?
You have to use one of your standard, say, 5 substitutions to bring that player on.
Wow. Now that is high-stakes management.
Isn't it?
You have this incredible asset, your star striker, suddenly available at the 91st minute.
Yeah.
But do you burn your last precious sub on him? Or do you save it for a fresh pair of legs in the 115th minute?
Or for a penalty specialist for the shootout. The pressure on the manager would be immense. It turns the sideline into a strategic showcase.
It really does. Let's dig into that extra time protocol a bit more because the paper makes some really fine distinctions even within those 30 minutes.
It does, all to maintain that core principle of equity.
So if a player gets a red card in the first period of extra time, so between 91 and 105 minutes,
The team still pays a heavy price. They have to survive the whole second period. And maybe a penalty shootout, down a player. That's a significant in-game cost.
and because they paid that cost.
The player earns a quarter suspension for their next match. They'll be eligible for extra time in the following fixture. The logic is consistent.
But it flips completely if the red card comes late. In that second period extra time, 106 to 120 minutes.
Then the game is pretty much over. The team pays almost no price. A few minutes, maybe? So the player gets a full suspension, no leniency.
The punishment always aligns with the damage done.
Always. But, and we have to make this crystal clear before we go any further, there is a hard line here.
Exemption clause.
The red line. This entire system, all this nuance, is only for competitive footballing errors.
Tactical fouls, 2 yellows, dog yellow.
And for anyone listening, dog yellow is denying an obvious goal-scoring opportunity.
Right.
So this TBGSS is only for those kinds of footballing offenses. There is absolutely zero tolerance for aggression. Any red card for violent conduct, spitting, racism, assaulting an official,
It's an immediate, non-negotiable, full suspension.
no matter what minute it happened, the authors say it perfectly, no redemption for aggression. That firewall is essential for the whole proposal to have integrity.
A really necessary check and balance. It proves the system is about sporting equity, not about being soft on dangerous behavior.
Exactly.
So let's circle back to those conclusions from Aydın Tiryaki and the team.
They argue it achieves three main things. First, it restores equity, which we've covered. Second, it heightens drama. That managerial gamble we talked about is inherently dramatic.
And third,
Tactical bravery. It forces managers to be proactive in how they think about suspensions, rather than just passively accepting a ban.
you know, their core argument really does stick with you. Yet football has evolved in every other way, tactics, technology, fitness, but its justice system is stuck in the past.
It's a very data-driven, logical response to what has always been a very emotional, tradition-bound rule.
For me, the single most intriguing part is that strategic layer of the locked substitute. It doesn't just change the punishment, it changes the entire dynamic on the sideline. Knowing you have that asset on the bench, but that it will cost you one of your most valuable resources, a sub-slot,
That tension alone would revolutionize knockout football.
it would. And if we connect this back to your world, you, the listener, this whole proposal is just a brilliant example of applying cold mathematical logic to these deeply entrenched, emotionally charged rules.
Right. Think about how many things in our lives, regulations, policies, are governed by historical tradition instead of, actual data and analysis.
Which brings us to the final provocative thought we wanted to leave you with.
The authors made a point of listing the AI Gemini 3 Pro as a co-author. It signals how important it was in generating the technical solutions and ensuring the logic was sound.
So here's the thought for you to mull over. If artificial intelligence can help fundamentally overhaul something as traditional and emotionally guarded as the rules of sport, what other areas of our lives, governed by tradition rather than objective data, are ripe for this kind of fundamental logical reform?
A big question.
A great question to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Aydın Tiryaki's fascinating proposal.
We hope this was a useful shortcut to being well-informed.
We'll see you next time.